we just had a great conversation about what to say when you can't say yes and how to not feel guilty about it. And this is really about setting boundaries, which is something that we hear a lot on social media or from therapists. But for me, it kept sounding really abstract. And so I wanted to provide some simple tools that you could use in 6 simple phrases that you could say to help set clear boundaries without feeling guilty. And then we get into a little bit more depth about why it's not always so easy for everyone. So I think you'll find it really valuable. Check it out. Welcome. So today I'm excited to talk about a really important topic that I think you'll find valuable. And as always, Amy, my head of outreach, is here with me.
Hello.
And Amy, I think you'll find this really valuable too, given what we were just talking about. So you said, you have to be out of here? You have a hard stop?
Yes, I need to be out of here by 10:45.
Okay. Well, I'll test your ability to apply what we learned today so
Fair.
that you can no. Well, I mean, what we're going to be talking about today is boundaries. And this is really important for people like us, which is to say, people who care about doing our best and also care about other people, at least to the extent where you're like, well, I don't want to be an asshole.
Okay.
And not everyone cares about those things. Like, not everyone cares about doing their best. Like, yeah, they just don't give a shit. They're phoning it in. And there are lots of people, mostly men, who don't care about being an asshole. And so they have no problem, no emotional, you know, internal dialogue that is getting in the way of just being like, nope, or I'm just going to leave here. I'm just going to be out of here, whatever. I don't know. Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, I actually part of what I wanted to talk about was like why it's actually so difficult to set boundaries, when it's something that's supposed to be like good for us, a positive thing. It's an opportunity to advocate for ourselves, but it's difficult. Like we don't actually want to do it. But before we go into that, we should talk about what boundaries actually are and what they're not and what they're for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. What's your definition of boundaries? Oh, you were trying to quiz me, huh? But flip it
I'm trying to
back.
learn from you. But we've talked
Right,
about
but
this
to
before about
learn, you got to start where you are. One of my favorite quotes from Arthur Ashe, the tennis player, is start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I think that people forget the first part is you got to start where you are. Like, okay, where are you? I don't know. Like, I don't want to just talk. Like, where are you at?
Yeah. So we've talked about this before about how, setting boundaries and everything is kind of like this like viral phrase. And it falls into like therapy speak. And I think that because it's like therapy speak, a lot of people don't take it very seriously, unfortunately. But I think that a boundary is, I guess, like the threshold of how you will accept treatment or of what treatment you will accept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I suppose
Um,
that's what it is. I guess that's like
yeah.
literally what a boundary
I
means.
mean, I heard all this talk about boundaries and like, I'm not a therapist and I kept seeing all this, um, discussion online about like, this is a boundary. Like, oh, that's not a boundary. This is a request or, um, something else. And like,
Mhm.
it really is just about recognizing what you have control over and what's actually important to you.
It always comes back.
And it always comes back to that, but it's a boundary like that. I think sometimes people get stuck in like, well, what is this technically? Is this a boundary? Is this a request? Like, it doesn't matter what you call it, but what is most helpful is focusing on what you have control over. So for something to be a boundary, like it it doesn't need to require something of the other person. And a lot of times when we think we're setting boundaries or holding boundaries, what you're actually doing is trying to control the other person's behavior, like stop asking me or stop being mad at me. And you don't have control over the other person. And
Mhm.
that's frustrating to you. And because you're the kind of person that cares about other people, we end up contorting ourselves to be like, oh, well, I guess if they're not going to be happy with me saying no, then I just have to do it. Like, and we become held captive by our own strengths. That is the strength of wanting to do your best and the strength of caring about other people. So that's why today's episode, I like to think of what to say when you can't say yes and how to not feel guilty. Because communicating boundaries or holding boundaries is the easy part, or just like stating, like, oh, nope, can't do that. But because you're a caring person, you care about a lot of things, then there's all this like guilt and second guessing and self doubt. And if it was just about what to say, well, that's easy. And that's what we're going to jump into that and give people some key phrases. But then we're going to focus on the more important part, the difficult part. This reminds me of an old Seinfeld episode where did you ever watch Seinfeld? Or did that stop before you were born?
No, I've seen
Oh,
Seinfeld.
you've seen so
I
okay.
think I think I know what you're
Just
gonna say too.
clear. Oh, dude. Okay. Do you want to share it then? Did
No, no, you can share it. You can give it your comedic twist or whatever,
um
but I think you're gonna
yes,
talk.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you allowing me to shine. Um so there's an episode where he makes a can't actually remember if it's a oh yes, it's a reservation at a restaurant. I always got confused because the exact same situation happened to me when I was trying to rent a car. But this was at a restaurant and he shows up at the restaurant. It's like, oh, we have a reservation. And they were like, oh, yes, we have your reservation, but we don't have your table. Your table's not available. And Seinfeld's like, so it sounds like you know how to take the reservation, but not how to hold the reservation, which some people might say is the most important part of a reservation. And like, when it comes to boundaries, there's a few different parts. There's communicating the boundary. And that's what we're going to focus on first. But then there's also something that most people don't realize is being aware of your own boundaries in the first place and then holding those boundaries, which some people might say is the most important part of boundaries. And I think a lot of people get stuck, they get tripped up because they have a boundary, but they're not sure how to communicate it. And so then their brain's like, well, that's awkward. So let's just ignore it and just say yes anyway. So I just want to jump in to make this really practical to 6 helpful phrases that you can use when you can't say yes, but you don't want to feel guilty, or you want to say yes, but you can't right now. Or sometimes it's about, well, you don't want to say yes, but you don't want to do it in a mean way.
Mhm.
Um, or you don't want to say no in a mean way. So
Yeah. I think,
I think it might be
that
helpful to go through some of this.
yeah. I think that's especially difficult because I think most of the for myself at least, most of the time I only think to, like, communicate a boundary when I feel like the boundary is being like approached or like crossed. Um, and I feel that way. I suppose like for most people, boundaries are crossed once you're sacrificing your own, I guess, comfort for someone else's. Or what do
Yeah.
you
No, I mean that like boundaries, just in the definition of the word, is like a limit, a limitation. You don't have infinite time and energy and patience and money. So therefore, you have boundaries. You have limitations on those things. And sometimes your limitations are caused by other choices that you made. Like, oh, I would have more time to commit to this project and do a better job on it. Oh, if I didn't care about my kids, or like, oh, if I didn't have to sleep. But those are other boundaries that I have. Some of those are just biological limits, like, oh, you have to sleep, you have to eat. Some of those are choices that we make. I'm choosing to prioritize my kids. But when you're not clear about which boundaries you actually have or why you have those boundaries, then it's much easier to get in a negotiation with yourself about whether that boundary actually exists. Are there any particular situations where you feel like you have a hard time holding your boundaries or noticing your boundaries, or your boundaries when I put you on the spot and you don't know how to respond, and maybe we could work on that?
um I definitely do struggle to like set and communicate boundaries with certain people, and I think that's because I kind of approach it in like, oh, I'm going to set I think to set boundaries with the people that I think are most likely to cross those boundaries, So it can be like a sensitive area sometimes of like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
communicating this to you because I think that you have like threatened this boundary.
When there's uncertainty about like, is this person going to even respect what I say? That makes it a lot harder because your own brain will work against you if you're like, and this is why it's much more challenging for women, particularly male dominated environments, or just because of social, cultural expectations, that your brain correctly assesses, if I say something, will this person even respect it or listen to me? And
Yeah.
that's going to create a lot of drama, and I don't want to deal with that. So it's just easier to say yes. And like that sucks, but like sometimes it's your brain just like making this calculation automatically that is an accurate calculation. But the thing to do with that, and I talk about this with clients all the time, with students all the time, is to realize like that's not a problem with you. That's a freaking problem with society. And recognizing that doesn't mean you can suddenly magically change society. It just
Yeah.
means, oh, you stop blaming yourself for something that's just a messed up situation that you are in. Like, I feel like a lot of when I talk about these things, there's not necessarily like a magic solution. It's just if you become a little bit more aware of what's going on, then you at least stop getting in your own way and making it harder than it needs to be. It'll still be hard, but once you realize, oh, this is hard because it's messed up, like,
Yeah.
then makes it a little easier.
I think it can be hard to say yes because I mean, the point of setting a boundary is to like change the relationship. And like the relationships do change when you set boundaries. Like it's a different thing to set a boundary with your brother or your kid or your spouse versus like your employer. Like these relationships are different and they do change after setting a boundary. And it also makes both people sort of more aware of the relationship that you guys have with each other.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of the phrases that I like is you have to teach people how to treat you. And a lot of times the issue is like you have boundaries, but you're so in your own head being frustrated that you have boundaries, that those emotions make it harder to communicate those boundaries in a clear way. And that's not fair to you, but it's also not fair to the other person because, yes, sometimes the other person is an asshole who doesn't care about you. Okay, that's important for you to recognize, like, oh, what is the actual nature of this relationship? But sometimes it's your brother or your friend who does care about you, and you're contorting yourself to try to like please them. But like, if they knew that they were causing you pain or discomfort, they wouldn't want to do that. And like, you end up resenting them because you're not being clear about what
Yeah.
your actual needs are. So just to jump in a practical way, I came up with sort of 6 phrases you can use in different situations. One is, well, let's just start with this first one. Like turning down a request for help when your friend is like, oh my, or a coworker is like, oh my God, like this project is due. Like, I need help with this. Well, you're busy with your own stuff. What can you say sometimes? And one of the simple phrases is, oh, I don't have the bandwidth right now, but I've got time later this week. Because what you're trying to communicate is like, hey, I care about you. I care about helping you. Sometimes when you're a high achiever, you don't want to say like, I can't or I'm not able to. And then you're like, ooh, right, but I could. Right. You could if you were willing to give up or deprioritize this thing that you're not willing to prioritize. So
Mhm.
you actually can't, but that's a choice you're making. But you just want to communicate to this person that they are a priority, that you do want to help them. You're just not able right now. But how does that strike you? Could you see yourself using that?
Yeah, but I can also see myself being really apprehensive to say that, like, in the workplace.
Okay, well, since I employ you, we could
Mm.
try that. Hey,
Oh.
Amy, could you edit this episode by 3 o'clock today?
I don't have the bandwidth to do that today, but I have time later this week.
Wonderful. You got it.
Thanks, thanks.
And we'll talk more about that later. But right, like
Yeah, but not everyone
sometimes
has,
it's
employers who are
helpful.
respecting of boundaries.
That's true. And that's, we'll get into what to do when someone doesn't respect your boundaries. But that's why the key thing is recognizing your boundary exists regardless of what this other person is doing. One of
Yeah.
my favorite examples like these sometimes with clients is like I had a client who's an entrepreneur and like had difficulty with employees, like not respecting boundaries. And the analogy I gave was this, like on a road, say a mountain road, there's a place where you can drive and it's very safe to drive. And then there's a place where you're in a ditch, like
Mhm.
you drove off a cliff and you can't drive there. And regardless of whether there was a sign or not, like, well, that boundary is there. Like there's places where you can't drive. There's going to be consequences that you can't control. But as a designer of that road, if you are aware, like, oh, well, cars should probably stay here because this is where it's safe and they shouldn't go over here. Well, it's not helpful to have just road, 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 cliff,
Mhm.
because then people will inadvertently drive off the road. So, what did the designers of roads do? They were aware of where it's actually not safe to drive. And so they started with like a little line, just like, hey, probably stay on this side of the line
Mhm.
because it's clear that's 99% of people. That's all they need. They just need to say, oh, there's the line. Okay. And then if you go over the line, there's like a little rumble strip where your car like, ooh, something's happening. I really want, I need to change something about this. And then there's maybe a guardrail that's like, no, you can't really go over there.
Mhm.
Now, if someone was intent on it, they're like, well, I don't care. I'm going to crash through the guardrail. We're like, I tried. I did that. Now they're in the ditch. But like, you can't save someone from something that they are intent on doing. All you can do is recognize like how am I willing to participate in this? So like when you're not clear about your own limitations, then you end up bending and contorting yourself. So like if your boss is continue to ask you to do things that are unreasonable and they are unreasonable and toxic, you need to be clear like, oh, what would I be unwilling to do? If you can't answer that for yourself, then you're probably not being honest with yourself. Like what is the line that they would have to cross where I'd be like, "Oh, I'm quitting." Like, and I think it's very hard for people who are thoughtful and care about other people because we automatically assume that everyone else is that way.
Mhm.
And not everyone is that way. And that's where you want to realize, like, "Oh, I can't control if they're an asshole, but like I'm not willing to work." And if you are willing and you keep bending and contorting yourself, then you are part of the problem. You're not the problem. You're not the cause of the problem, but you're contributing to the problem. And this is sometimes where a lot of people who care about doing their best run into trouble because like, no, I can just keep working harder. I could make this work. Like, okay, but should you? Like, do
Yeah.
you want to keep contorting yourself for this toxic boss?
Yeah, okay. Fair
Okay,
argument.
so glad we got that one down. I think we're sort of weaving in some of the later lessons as well. But this
Wait,
one is
I wanna
about
hear another phrase.
what was that?
I said, "I wanna hear the next phrase."
Okay, yeah. So like this one is about turning down a social request or something that like you want to do. Because sometimes like what I want to communicate is like, oh my God, thank you so much. That sounds amazing. Ooh, I can't, right? So someone invites you to lunch, like, hey, let's have lunch tomorrow. And you can say, that sounds fun. I can't make it then, but can we find another time? Like, you want to communicate that you appreciate this person inviting you to lunch. You also
Mhm.
want to communicate that you can't do it. Great. So say both of those things. And then I find sometimes when it's something that you want to do or what you're trying or what the message that you want to leave them with is a positive one, then say the negative information first and end with positive information. Like, I can't make it then. You're just being clear. Oh, I can't make it then, but maybe we can find another time. Like, that is
Mhm.
a hopeful. You are leading them towards something positive. They might not take it, but like, you don't have control over that. You have control over what is possible, what I can do, as opposed to sometimes when I feel so guilty that I can't make it, I end up sounding more negative than I wanted. Like, oh, can we find another time? Like, I can't make it then. And then you're
Mhm.
ending with like, I can't. And you're leading them towards your own negative emotional state because
Yeah.
you can't just like accept it. Is that
Yeah, no,
something?
that's
Should we
true.
try that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, without that, like, last part, without the you offering to do something a different time, I think that it does sound, um I don't know, kind of like you don't care, I feel. Like, if I were to just say, like, "That sounds fun, I can't make it." Even if I said, like, "That sounds fun," that would make me feel like, "Oh my gosh," like, it sounds like I'm not a good friend or I'm not a good whatever I am to this person. So I think it is really important because this is also the same structure as the first one, turning down a request for help is like saying what you have the ability to do now and what you have the ability to do at another time.
Right. Yeah. Um, and like that is a much easier way to not feel guilty because you're like, "Oh, I'm I'm offering this other thing." Though the one pitfall for that for people who are givers who care about other people is that sometimes you like end up over explaining or trying to like make it work, and we end up really trying to manage the other person's emotions. And that's why it's so crucial to understand your relationship with this person and what kind of person this other person is. I just made a post about this, about givers and takers. There's really two kinds of high achievers out there. And most of the people who are my clients, or all the people who are my clients, are givers. And there's people who are takers. And when you are a giver, you're the kind of person who's just like, I'm always giving my best and I'm trying to care about other people. It's easy to assume that other people are the same way. And if they, in fact, are the same way and they're treating you in that way, wonderful. Then you can be as giving and generous as you want. And so offering, oh, I can't do that then. Oh, but I could another time. Like that's the kind of relationship you want to have with them. But some people are takers. And no matter how much you give, they're never going to be satisfied, and they're always just going to keep asking for more. And it's helpful to realize, like, oh, is that what this kind of person is? Well, then no matter how much explanation I give, I'm just going to end up getting in my own way, or they're not going to accept it and keep trying to bulldoze me. So sometimes, and this is the next one, when you can decline without offering an alternative, without offering an explanation, just something like, oh, that doesn't work for my schedule, but thank you for thinking of me. Like you still get to be the good person that feels uncomfortable because you're like, oh, but what if I could do this? And that's where you need to realize, like, oh, this person will never be satisfied
Mhm.
with me. That frees me of the obligation of trying to make them feel satisfied. Like, I'm not the asshole, they're the asshole. Oh, that's so freeing. Does that feel like something that would come up at times for you?
I'm I suppose I'm one of those people who just assumes that everyone is a giver,
Yeah.
so I don't really think of people as like, takers. I'm kind of always in the position where I'm willing to offer something later. So yeah, I don't really the
And
only
and
time I
that's the
think about using something like this is like if I really like don't care about something, like yesterday someone was like, "Do you want to come to my Bible study?" And I was like, "No, I'm not interested." You
right.
know? And like, I think it's that
And
kind
that's
of
the kind of thing that like it's really important for you to recognize what you actually want. Because sometimes someone's asking you to do something that you don't want. So you don't need to over explain. You have a desire to over explain because that's what's wired into your emotion and habit circuit right now. And it
Mhm.
feels uncomfortable to not over explain. But the only way to get better at identifying and holding your boundaries and communicating those boundaries is to sometimes practice just stating it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you
When
don't
was the
have
last time
to.
you declined something without offering an alternative?
I don't know, probably a week or two ago, this guy was like asking me to contribute or do something for his, like get a lot of requests online. He's like, oh, I'm building this platform or something. Like, could you come on? And like, I think it would resonate with your audience, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to help build someone else's platform. Like, I got my own stuff going on. But
Yeah.
like I can appreciate, I don't want to like be negative to him. Like, oh, that's like, I'm prioritizing other things right now, but thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Like, nope,
Yeah, okay.
you know,
That's a great example.
that's because like if you already have a relationship with someone and you know that they care about you, that's a different thing versus, oh, this is just some rando.
Yeah.
Like, it's good of you. You're a nice person. It says you're a nice person that you assume that they have the best of intentions. And you can feel free to keep assuming that. But at some point, you start to realize, like, oh, I'm contributing to my own condition or situation sometimes because I'm just assuming that everyone is cares about me as much as I care about them.
Yeah.
And I can feel free to do that and I benefit from that. But if at any point I'm like, oh, I'm getting in my own way there, then just realize that that assumption is not always accurate.
Yeah.
And then I can get there faster. So, like, if someone has demonstrated that they care about me in the past, well, then maybe I would communicate it differently. But,
Mhm.
like, I've just sort of shifted my default or just been more aware that I can't always assume everyone cares about doing their best or cares about me in the same way that I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, let's just keep going on. The next one is about pushing back on scope creep in a project at work. I'm not sure if this applies to you as much, but I remember like when I was in some previous jobs, my boss is like, oh, like, oh, can we do this too? Oh, like, you're smart. Can you keep doing more of this? And one of the helpful phrases is like, oh, I want to make sure I can give this the attention it deserves. Can we talk about what to deprioritize to make room for it? It shouldn't be on you to decide, like, I don't have too much stuff. Like, if your boss keeps giving you more stuff that you can't do, well, they should tell you what you should stop doing. And
Yeah.
they don't want to think about what they should stop doing. So they're just hoping that you'll just do more of it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really helpful one for people who really are just absolute all-stars in their career and who are,
But,
you know, being
well,
asked so much of them.
I remember this, like, my boss was really nice and he kept saying, like, can you do this? And like, can you do this? Like, oh, you're smart. You can figure it out. And like, at one point, he's like, kept asking me to do more. And I was like, I don't really think I can do this. And he was like, oh, you're smart. You'll figure it out. And that's where I want to be like, I appreciate your confidence in me. Like,
Mhm.
that's what I feel like, because I wanted to live up to that. But I realized, like, oh, I can't do as good a job as I want without sacrificing something else. So I was like, oh, I think you should probably, like, there's probably someone who's better at it than me. I would just have to accept, like, oh, I'm not perfect at everything.
Mhm.
Or just that, like, oh, yeah, I'd love to do that. That sounds fun. Like, but which of these things that I'm already doing should I get rid of?
Mhm.
And your boss might be like, oh, you're right. Oh, I guess those other things are more priorities. Okay. Like, we can't get rid of the fact that we have priorities. We can just get better and more accurate at aligning our priorities with our actions. Let's see. Another one is just redirecting without over explaining. I'm keeping my focus pretty narrow right now. Can we revisit this in a few weeks?
Oh,
Like, you're not
okay.
even saying
Or
no.
you would use that?
What was that?
Could you
Um, oh, just asking, like, oh, hey, can you volunteer for this committee or take on this extra project? I'm keeping my focus pretty narrow right now. Could we revisit it in a few weeks?
Mhm.
Like, it's if you have a specific time that you want to do it, you can state that.
Yeah.
If you're not really sure about if you want to do it or if you don't really want to do it, like, you can feel free to leave it vague. You don't have to come up with a plan to solve their problem. Like, that's
Mhm.
why it's very hard for people who are emotionally responsive to understand the separation between someone else's problem and your problem, because your mirror neuron system is going to mirror or react to their emotions, and it feels like other people's problems are your problem. And that's
Yeah.
where we want to be able to recognize, like, oh, is this my problem, or is this just I want to help them with their problem?
Oh,
um I feel like I'm sharing all of the details about what I wanted to share in the second half, but like, I think I wanted to start this episode with talking about simple phrases because I think that's what people want. Uh,
yeah.
but you start to realize, like, there's not like magic words.
Yeah.
There's a deeper aspect to this of it's not just that you don't know the right incantation to say. There's reasons why you are not saying these words or holding the boundaries when someone pushes back. So, I just want to get into that for a few minutes, although I guess I did promise six. So,
Wait, do you wanna save it
just,
for as, like, a
no, just
special
say, I'll just do the
example?
last
It's
one
just there.
of just turning down a responsibility that you kind of want, but just like not right now. Like, I had a client who's like, someone was like, oh, do you want to I think you'd be great for this leadership role or this committee or whatever. And I was like, I appreciate the offer. Thank you. That's sort of like what I said to my father. Thank you for thinking how smart and how capable. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I'm focused on other priorities right now. You can feel free to list them if you want. You don't have to, but I'm focused on these other priorities right now. But please keep me in mind for the future. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
good.
dissing, like, it sounds like you got a great thing going on. It seems like the kind of thing I'd like to be a part of. Like, I can't do it right now, but like, let's keep this relationship going.
Yeah. It's funny because you're right,
Does
like,
that
there are
sound
no
does
magic
that sound good?
words. Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny to me because, these are just, like, regular phrases that are very easy for some people to say. It's funny that it's, like, so
Yeah,
difficult for other
exactly.
people to say it.
Exactly. And that's where people are like, oh, if I just had the right phrase, if I could just say the right magic words, then people would stop asking me things. And
Yeah.
that's where the next two pieces of it are even more important of there's communicating your boundaries and then there is being aware in the first place of what those boundaries actually are. And then there's the deeper emotional work of holding those boundaries
Mhm.
because it's so easy. And for someone's like, oh, just say this, say this. And I found it like so dismissive of my emotions when coaches like, oh, just say this. Or a therapist like, oh, just say this. Like, why is that problem? Just say that. Like, you're not understanding
Mhm.
how challenging this is for me. And also, I think it smacks of a lot of privilege and power that, like, yeah, it's really easy to say these things when you feel powerful and when you have a lot of power. And to say to someone else, like, oh, you know what you should do? You should do this thing that's so easy for me to do.
Mhm.
Like I joke sometimes about if you're trying to learn basketball from LeBron James. He'd be like, oh, you know what I do? When I get near the hoop, I just I just put the ball in the hoop. You just jump up and you put it in the hoop. So like that's what you should do. And you'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, that yeah, I can't do that. Like, I appreciate your belief in me. And that's where like when we're trying to take advice from people, it's important to realize that you can't always take their advice because you're not them. Your abilities, your comfort level, your skills, what you actually have control over might be different from them. And that's what boundaries are. Like I'm 5'9". Oh, there's some people who are 5'9" who can dunk. Oh, thank you. I'm not one of them. I would love to be one of them. But like being aware of what your boundaries are is so crucial. I took a yoga class once, and this teacher said something. I've taken a lot of yoga classes, but the teacher said something that really stuck with me, which was clear boundaries, infinite freedom. Once you are clear about what you can't do, it frees you up from doing the things that you can do. Because you stop spending all your time and energy like banging your head against the wall for things that you can't control. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, like we just said, like these are just regular old phrases that we hear all of the time, that people tell to us all of the time. Like things that like it's easy for people to say these things. And it's funny because like it is just simply the truth. Like you say these things only when they are true. Like, oh, sorry, like those are not my priorities right now, but I'm willing to contribute in a different way later. And it's just funny because like I guess it's so difficult because we are not always willing to tell the truth about what our own boundaries are. Or maybe it's because like we just don't know exactly what they are, just like you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's only when you make the same mistake over and over again. You're like, oh, I kept trying to drive my car down that road and I kept getting broken down. It's like, oh, well, because you have a Ferrari and you keep trying to drive over that curb. You're like, oh, but my friend doesn't have that problem. Right. Your friend has a beat up Jeep.
Mhm.
Like, and you're like, oh, I wish I had a beat up Jeep. Like, no, like you have a Ferrari. Ferrari can't go off roading. Once you're free, once you accept, like, oh, I can't drive over that 3-inch curb. Well, what can I do? I'm in a freaking Ferrari. I can drive 150 miles an hour if I want. I can like, get somewhere in style and have fun doing it as long as I'm on the right road. But you're never going to get there, but trying to drive over this curb that you can't drive over. And like, that's where people get stuck. Once you're like, oh, I can't go that way. Maybe someone else can go that way. But like, it opens up the road, it opens up the possibilities for your zone of genius. And there's so often when I see people who have what I would call like a Ferrari brain, like you're emotionally responsive and you're intelligent, you care about doing your best. Like those are wonderful qualities. But if you don't realize that they have limitations, well, then you'll end up being like, just wish I could be like that guy who just, does the same thing every day and doesn't care about it. But like, oh, I'm stuck here caring about doing my best and caring about other people. And we start to treat our strengths as weaknesses. And like, I can't
Yeah.
stand. And I mean, I was doing that for a long time. Did you ever do that for yourself?
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, I am that person in the Ferrari who's complaining that I can't drive over the curb. Like, all of us have, like, unique assets and abilities and talents, and, most of us who are watching this right now are just sitting down focusing on our limitations and how we're not able to say no to, I don't know, some lunch that we don't care about. Like, that's hilarious. Sorry, it's
Right.
not funny. It's just
It is
ironic.
funny. Like, because when it comes to things like that you can't control, they're basically two emotional paths forward. Like, you can either cry about it because it's frustrating sometimes. Like, well, there's all this shit going on that I can't control. And like, it creates negative emotions. And like, yeah, it's reasonable to feel shitty about it. And then you cry and like, it doesn't change anything. It just means that, oh, crying helps with acceptance, where I stop banging my head against the same wall trying to change this thing that I can't. But
Mhm.
humor also accomplishes the same thing. Like, this is messed up. Like, yeah, you can laugh about it. Like, you still can't change it. But like, again, humor helps with acceptance. And those are two very helpful tools. So sometimes we keep getting stuck because we feel sad about something, but because I'm a high achiever, I'm like, no, I shouldn't feel sad. I shouldn't cry about it. It's like, well, then you're going to keep trying to ignore your limits when, like, nope, the best
Yeah.
solution, the fastest solution is often to just feel sad and be like, oh, it's okay. And then you let go of it and it stops bothering you. And now you can go drive your Ferrari on the freeway. Um,
Yeah, I
I'm
think,
recognizing that. Sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 please finish your thought.
Well, it's just easier. I realize this is a boundary. This is a limit to not a boundary. This is a limitation that we have. We're talking over Zoom, and it's not as good as in person communication. It's hard to know, like, oh, is there a pause because there's a lag, or is it just you're thinking of what to say or whatever? But like, okay, that's going to be the kind of thing that happens in online communication, and the faster that you can accept, like, oh, this is just what happens. Oh, then the faster you can react to it and not worry about it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Um,
what I was just going to say is that I was conscientious, like, well, I don't want to overwhelm people with all of this, like that we're not going to solve how to hold your boundaries all right now. But like, hopefully that was some helpful phrases that you can use. And then also being more accepting and passionate to yourself why those phrases are sometimes difficult. And that the more important thing is not just communicating those boundaries, but first being aware of what those boundaries are and then being more accepting of yourself for the fact that you even have boundaries in the first place.
yeah.
Because when you don't validate your own needs and your own limitations, your own boundaries, then what we end up doing is like hoping that if I just say the magic words, then you'll stop asking me to do this. And that's why it's so important, really, like boundaries. It doesn't matter if this person keeps asking you or not or whatever. Like, once you're clear for it yourself and dealing with the emotions behind it, then yeah, I would like them to stop asking, but I don't need them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, boundaries are how we advocate for ourselves, which I think is what's so hard for some of us is that we don't want to advocate for ourselves, you know?
You don't want to advocate for yourself because you're worried that like you don't have control over the things that are most important to you. And like
Yeah. We really should be
advocating for
reframing it.
yourself sort of forces you. What was that?
I was gonna say, like, we really should be, like, reframing it, like, advocating for yourself is not, like, some daunting thing that you have to do for yourself in order to, like, you know, reach this, like, position in the relationships around you or anything. Like, it's just, like, something that you owe yourself because you deserve it, you know? But we don't often think about it.
Yeah. And I like to think of it sometimes as like it's the thing that you want to do. It's easy to do something that you want to do. And that's why it's so important to be like, okay, well, yes, I could say yes to this thing. It's easier in the moment to just, say yes and this person would stop annoying me. But like, is that important to me? Because if I say yes to this, then I couldn't say yes to some bigger, more important thing. So, what is that bigger, more important thing that I want to say yes to? Because
Mhm.
boundaries are the way that you say yes to the things that are most important to you. So, like, if I'm driving my car on that road, I could just go right through this barrier. Oh, I could do that if it was important to me. Like, oh, but then I couldn't keep driving. So it's not important to me. And that's where the bigger, more important thing isn't always going to be the easier thing. Like the easier thing right now would just, just say yes, I'd feel better immediately. And that's why it's so important to be clear about why I'm saying no, because I'm not really saying no. That's how I'm communicating it to say no, but it really is no. What am I saying yes to in my life? I'm saying yes to my kids. I'm saying yes to this other important project. I'm saying yes to what else is going on in my life that's important to me. And I think we probably need to have a whole other episode about that.
I think
But I'm going to give
too.
you an opportunity right now to say yes to something. I'm making it easy on you. I should probably make it harder on you. But like, what is it? You're not saying that you have to stop talking with me. You want to keep talking with me, but
It's
there's something else that you're committed to. So what is it like you would want to say to me?
I would say that I really appreciate you giving me your time and speaking about this with me. I've learned a lot and I want to stay longer, but I can't. I have to go. Sorry. No, no, I'm not even sorry. Sorry. I'm not
Well, but
sorry.
that's where it's like you could. Right, exactly. That's why like in your own mind, you act and what's actually true is that you could stay longer. You are committed to being the best teacher for your students. That's what you're committed to right
Yeah.
now. And if there was
Yeah,
some
I could
way
stay longer, but
to
I
be
have
a great
other
teacher for your
priorities.
students, you have other priorities, and that's okay. And I might keep talking, and you could, if you want, they're just like, well, he's going to keep talking anyway, so I just got to go. But I will make it easy on you. And it was wonderful talking with you. I'm glad we could talk about such an important topic. Hopefully, people found that helpful. I enjoy sharing about this and exploring this with you. So, yeah, have a good one, and we'll
Yeah.
talk again soon.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
Bye.